So this webinar is entitled Why Trauma is Not Just a Thought. Now, this is going to be a controversial one, and we're going to be very transparent and honest with you guys. What we're going to do is we're going to share our hearts, actually, and some scientific research behind the topic of this webinar. And what we're going to do, we're going to talk for around 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to have a break. Then we're going to go to Q&A. Being open-minded isn't really so much about what you believe and everything about being able to change or transform what you believe. It's a fluidity within you that is open enough to challenge your own belief systems. Often when you get humbled, it's the most wonderful thing that can happen to you. Because in that space, it allows you to reorganize what you believe into a new truth, a new understanding for you. So I'm asking you to be open-minded here. In this webinar, we're going to share an understanding of why trauma isn't just a thought. We're going to share some pretty gritty personal experiences of this with us and our family to give you a personal example. We're going to share some peer-reviewed science. I mean, there's thousands of peer-reviewed science backing up what we're saying. And what we're going to do when the recording is released in your members area, and I'll put a link in the chat if you're not in there, all the links are going to be under this recording because there's too many to put in the chat live at the moment. And what we're going to be sharing is self-evident, and it's going to take a lot of stuff off your mind. And if you're suffering at the moment from things that have happened in the past, or maybe stuff that you're going through at the moment, and you could be judging yourself, this is really going to help. And in fact, that's the main reason that we're doing this, because we love you. And we don't want people suffering needlessly. So, after sharing an understanding for 20 years about thought-created experience, many of you kind of may know that I've done that in the past. When I came across Jules and learning about her near-death experience and literally dying, seeing the fundamental forces behind existence and then coming back with a full recollection of them, I've been helping Jules articulate them into a form that will take people back to the formless that they already are but may have amnesia to. And I've been so humbled by this beautiful spirit next to me here that it is kind of completely blasted away and changed almost everything that I teach. After teaching something for nearly 20 years, and in fact being a very prolific teacher in that understanding, it's been humbling, it's been opening, and gritty. But as you say, honey, the
grittiness births the smooth.
The grit can often birth the smooth and a completely renewed idea of life itself. So just before I introduce what you're going to say, honey, so in 2014, Jules had an experience of what it is that we're going to be talking about and the research, and didn't know that there was research and a whole field backing up your direct experience.
Yeah.
Over to you, honey.
I think I said, I forgot something that was really important. It was tissue.
Oh, luckily I have one here.
Thank you, Rudy. Okay, so... So I talk about I talk about my experience in the very first chapter of our book. And
which is this here?
Moving,
I'll put a link in the chat. Sorry, Karen.
Moving into that experience, that exquisite, freeing, liberating experience, I had so many professionals surrounding me. I had a gastroenterologist, a urologist, a cardiologist, a psychiatrist, PhDs. They were all experts in their own little tiny part of what it means to be human. But I felt something deeper inside of me, but yet that's what I want to talk about. That's your truth. I don't know the truth, but I know each and every one of you have your own unique truth. And I didn't follow my truth. I didn't follow what this tiny, tiny little voice inside of me, the sensations inside of me were trying to tell me. And I believed everything that all these specialists were saying. And in an effort to belong and follow them, I alienated my own being. And then I found myself homeless in 2014, living in a car at a campsite, in a tent site with my son. And the state came and took him. And just prior to that, my cardiologist said, do not be in any stressful situations. Do not. You have hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, anything. You will have a sudden cardiac arrest. Well, after they took him, that's what happened. And I fell to the ground of the forest floor. And I fell into myself. But falling into myself, I fell into the cosmos. And not just into the cosmos, I was the cosmos. And I began to see this movement, this energy, and I'm just going to make this quick, these souls being birthed out of this oneness. I use my hand a lot. Like this is source. This is source. This is God expressing, polarizing, offering dynamics of duality, offering dynamics of polarity to give us the gift of experience, to give us experience, the love. This is love having a gift of experience. It's a non-dualistic, sublime love that at times seems very scary, but it's real. There is no separation. Now, one thing I want to say is that, yes, I had this experience. I woke up on the forest floor. I could see and feel and hear the energy, even in a rock. I could see energy around it. But one thing that you'll see, people have these experiences, the near-death experiences, the spiritual experiences. We are still human. Mm-hmm. We are still biochemical. We have these, I call them biochemical electromagnetic plasma-like beings. The biochemical is the bridge. Our body is the bridge between the form and the formless. And so many people alienate the body. Mm-hmm. This is sending me messages. One thing I saw was that the energy moves from the bottom up. And that helped me so much. It moves from the body up. Now, my son, after he was taken, he went to go live with his biological father. And I lost contact with him. My daughter and I lost contact with him. We tried and tried and tried. And one day my daughter called me in tears and said, "Mommy, I think they're turning Seth against us because he doesn't want to come to the phone. He doesn't want to talk to me. And he won't return any of my calls. There's something wrong. They're turning him against us." But what happened in 2019 when Rudy and I just got back here in Hawaii? I got a call from the state, the government in which Seth was living, that he was abandoned at the hospital with bruises to his face and body by his biological father. I can't even call him that. And they never told us. So when we were calling, he wasn't even in the home. So we were calling and calling and calling and believing that this child, this beautiful soul, didn't want to talk to us. And he wasn't even there. So he was in foster care. The system picked him up and he was in foster care for almost 2 years before they reached out. And there's, needless to say, there's
implications that are happening at the moment.
But we worked and we got our beautiful son home. And so I need to backtrack a little bit. In 2016, I want to stress the fact that I saw what I saw, experienced what I experienced, but I'm still human. And I still had these, what I describe to my students as these platforms of experience within my body that I needed to work through via the language of the body. And that worked for me. And then getting my son home, I was mother bear. I didn't want anybody telling him, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I didn't want anybody telling him that it's just his thinking or that it's just thought. I didn't want any cognitive behavior therapy around him. I helped him. And oh my gosh, he came and he was so little. And he was just tiny for his age. But he still had that aliveness, that beautiful spirit in there. Each and every one of you do. Mm-hmm. And so working with him, he hasn't stopped growing. And I know that some of our students who came to Hawaii that met Seth, he's taller than me now. But when he came, he was to my shoulder.
Just within 2 years.
Just within 2 years. Yeah. So I don't know what it was or what I was doing, but the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. Our body is speaking to us.
I love you. Oh, gee whiz.
Oh, there's another one over there. Look, there's an enormous one over there. It's like, whoa.
Can I get in the water?
Yeah, if you want.
And so I'm writing a book, and in writing the book, I started to research. And I want to bring the research to you now. In 1890, William James, the father of psychiatry,
he's heralded as the father of American psychology. Yeah.
He brought this understanding that all of the cognitive processes, like the thought, the story that we have via thought, follows a physiological state within your body. So what he's saying is story follows state. Story follows the emotions and the physical experience, the physical sensations that you're having in your body. This was 1890, and it's called the William James theory. Or no, it's called, the James Thorpe theory. And, but he was ridiculed. It never made its way into psychology. It never made its way into psychiatric teachings. And he was told that the body, the emotions are vile and animalistic, so they shouldn't be incorporated into the teaching. In 1906, Sir Charles Sherrington coined the term synapse and interoception, which is neuroreceptors in the body sending information to the brain. Mm-hmm. In fact, 80% of all information on this bi-directional freeway goes to the brain, from the body to the brain. And Sir Charles Sherrington wrote a book, The Integrated Action of the Nervous System, and won a Nobel Prize for it in 1932. And then more recently, the amazing Antonio Damasio took all of this information, took William James and the James Thorpe theory, and did the research on it. We now have the scientific tools, which they didn't have 100 mm-hmm. years ago. And so he took it, he proved it, and it's the somatic marker theory. And he even wrote a book. It's called Descartes' Error. It isn't bottom down. It's top up. People alienate the body, the emotions. So what Anthony Damasio proved is the body sensations give rise to feeling centers of the brain, and then a thought refines it. It isn't thought creates feeling. He states, to quote him, we aren't thinking machines that feel. We are feeling machines that think. And I'm not telling anybody this to prove people wrong or to try to be right. I want to soften people's experience. I want them to settle in to what it means to be human. We are these amazing biochemical, electromagnetic plasma-like beings that ebb and flow, contract and expand. And the most amazing man, Dr. Stephen Porges, coined the term neuroception. So we have neural receptors all over our body. He has thousands and thousands of peer-reviewed journals, just thousands of peer-reviewed journals, but it's been cited in other people's work thousands and thousands of times. The proof is in the pudding. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you is there's so much going on from the head down, and including the ears. We don't hear danger in the way you would believe we would hear danger. One of the neuroreceptors is the eardrum. In a state of danger, when your body is detecting danger, the eardrum, the tympanic membrane, actually changes shape. It changes shape. And in the case of my son, when he was surrounded by threat for years, sometimes it gets stuck. So it's only picking up danger. So that's receiving low vibrational tones or high vibrational tones that could be the sound of a woman's voice screaming or the low vibration of a lion's growl. Now that's sending information. It bypasses the brain altogether and goes into the physiology. And messages send up, and you get this feeling sensation of danger. You get thoughts that are prickly. They're uncomfortable. They're painful. And when somebody tells you it's a 100% thought-created world, how does that leave you? If somebody were to tell my son that, I don't know. I that's why I'm so Mother Bear. That, let alone the fact that when you're a teenager, your higher cortical regions, your thinking brain, isn't fully developed.
Can I jump in?
Yes. Sorry, I'm rattling.
So just to highlight what we're saying, most people see perception as happening between your ears and like cognitive. Now there is some truth in that because it is part of our whole nature of being. But what the research has found is that 80% of information is felt in the body, okay? 20% from the brain. So what's happening is, because we're not just physical beings, we're electromagnetic plasma-like beings. We're apparently physical, but we're also energetic. We feel, we're intuitive, we get a sense, we get kinesthetic feeling running up our neck. So the physical body in itself is putting feelers out and feeling the world. Now, what happens, what they found is that, yes, you can think of a traumatic thought and then you can feel it. Absolutely. What we're saying is not thought, is I experience. So, okay, so what we're not saying, because this goes against everything that I was teaching many of you guys for 20 years, life isn't 100% thought-based experience. Okay, it isn't. But it is 100% perceptual. Perceptual meaning it's not just cognitive thought that you're aware of or unaware of. It's the whole sense. I call it wholeception, a perception. Okay, I'll give you an example of this. So many of you may have heard of Heart Math Institute, who does research on our kind of whole nature of being. So they did this thing where they had hundreds of volunteers look at a screen, and the screen was blank, and an image popped up on the screen, and it was either a disturbing image or a really happy, beautiful image. Now, people didn't know what was going to flash up on the screen, and the idea was, can we sense what's going to come up on the screen? The research was in, and no, we couldn't. We couldn't tell cognitively what image was going to come up. However, people were wired up to a galvic skin response and heart rate variability, and the body's indicators, the body's messages were being monitored. Now, what they found is the body knew 2 seconds before an image came up. Before the image came up, it either got itself together to see a horrific image, or it started releasing the hormones of safety and endorphins because it's a beautiful image. Now, the people didn't cognitively know what image was coming up. Now, the crazy thing is the body knew what was going to come up before the computer knew what was going to come up. Now, that's an example that we have these feeling senses in our bodies that can arise up into our mind, and often the thinking we're having is just telling us what our body is feeling.
It's appraising our bodily state. It's a mirror, it's a reflection, it's interpreting, it's narrating this inner state, inner physiology.
You know, if you grab something hot, well, not on purpose, obviously, but if you put something then it's hot, you pull your hand back really quickly. Now, that is a bodily response. If you waited for your cognition to get involved, like, oh, this is hot, then your hand's burning while that's happening, even though cognition is very quick. So the body has these instinctive responses, okay, that just happen. It's like if someone goes boo and frightens you, you know, your body starts kind of doing this before you even think about it. That's kind of what we're talking about before thought, an instinctive response before thought. Now, the reason I'm saying this is I have studied understanding for 20 years, lots of insights, travel the world, all the rest of it is very thought-based. You know, thought creates experience. But in my relationship with Jules here, I found that Jules could say something or Seth could do something, and I'll have this immediate, instantaneous response and then think about it later. I just want to get a show of hands. Who here has had just a reaction to someone or something, and they kind of it happened so quickly they couldn't help it? Who's experienced that before? Okay. So this is what we're talking about. Now, I'm going to pass it back to Jules in a minute. I had my dad try to stab my mum to death in front of my eyes when I was 8. I had severe bullying. I had broken ribs when I was a kid. I had horrific domestic violence growing up, okay? So now that didn't break me, but it created what Jules calls as neural grooves. So I have these little things in me where I can just react. No, blah, 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 blah. And then as I'm reacting, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm really getting angry here, but I still talk, and I'm kind of talking, and I'm thinking my head's cognition is going, calm down, but my body's just reacting. Hands up who's experienced that themselves. This instantaneous thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is all of us, I don't care how many best-selling books you've written, I don't care how many wonderful spiritual experiences of oneness you've had, because we've had a few of them. It doesn't matter, you're still a physical being And you're still determined by these little, what you call platforms of perceptions within us that react before cognition.
Yeah, I called them platforms. There's something in your body. There's something there. Because I saw it, and then I felt it. And what that did is soften my experience. It softened my experience because of what I was told, that it was all in my head. It was all in my cognitive, it was coming from a cognitive centric world. But it softened my experience after seeing that and working through my own platforms of perspective. But now it's there's a term for it. It's neuroception. Neuroception is the nervous system surveillance system. It is the first line of defense. When we're born, or when we're 6 weeks in utero, the very first thing that's developed is the neural tube. Not the heart, not the brain, not the spinal cord. The neural tube. From there, the heart, the spinal cord, and the brain will be developed. And when we're born, we have very primitive cognitive processes. I've heard people describe, we're born with a gift of thought. But no, I mean, if any of you have had children, you know that there's not a whole lot of reactions. And then that's not, where we've all been kids, we've all been teenagers. The prefrontal cortex doesn't fully develop until you're in your mid-20s. So they're working off of this desire to survive, but also the desire to connect. It's imperative. Connection is a biological imperative. So I'm going to quote Dr. Stephen Porges again. The nervous system is the intervening variable in any physical or mental health condition. It's all one system. And finally, right now, present day, this is getting into the medical schools and the psychiatric schools. It's getting in there as a curriculum. Finally, because to quote Anthony Damasio, Descartes was not wrong, but upside down. It's all of the information, or 80% of the information, is so important in the body. And
like with our son Seth, so when we got him back, he had these responses.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, he had so many psychiatrists talking to him. If any adult asked him a question, he would immediately get defensive and kind of like arsey and difficult. Even like, Seth, how was your day at school today? And he's like, fine. What did you do? You just quit bothering me, man. Kind of like that. Now, if we told Seth, oh, Seth, stop reacting, it's just your thinking, how do you think he's going to feel about that? What we've explained to Seth is because of what had happened to him, he's got these automatic responses. It's not his fault. He can't help it. It's a neural groove. He's not consciously doing it. It's not doing it on purpose. He's got this behavior. And we lovingly explained how this worked to him. And what happens now, when he reacts like that, I say, oh, Seth, that unconscious behavior is happening again. And he's like, oh, because he's not blaming himself
right.
for his experience. He's seeing he's innocent and we can't, if you're walking along a dark corridor and someone bursts out and goes, boo, we can't help but do this. It's not our fault because of our thinking. It's a natural physiological response.
It's not just natural, it's necessary. The human race would not survive if we thought about every action, if we thought about every behavior. Our nervous system, our body, in situations like Seth, is fine-tuned to detect threat. Even when there isn't any threat, even when he comes home, he wasn't being disrespectful, or he wasn't acting out in an intentional manner. His body was protecting him. His nervous system was protecting him, as it should.
Yeah. So just to highlight, research has shown 80% of all of your perception, okay, is being sent by the body 20% from your cognition. Life isn't 100% thought-based. It isn't. But it is 100% perceptual.
Yeah.
Perceptual, not just meaning the head, but our whole body.
Rudy calls it
our body,
Wholeception.
our mind, our energetic. We are energetic beings. If you imagine that our brain is becoming our entire body, that's perception. It's a whole set. I call it a wholeception. Yeah. So what can happen is, well, I'm getting into the doing here, which I probably shouldn't do. But to be completely transparent with you, Jules here has worked with so many people coming from a very cognitive, it's just your thinking, you don't know what your experience is coming from. He was so judgmental, a lot of them are suicidal, because not only were they feeling bad, they were feeling bad that they were feeling bad, and they were feeling bad that they should know where their experience is coming from. Then they were feeling bad because they're having these reactions and it's their fault because it's their thinking. Now, obviously, not all teachers teach like that, but often that's what people can get from everything's thought-based. Mm-hmm. And you have had so many people who were literally suicidal. A couple of sessions later, they started to understand their whole perceptual nature, not just here, but here.
I started in 2014 with my little crazy words like biochemical, electromagnetic, plasma-like beings, and I know our facilitator students, and bringing the inchworm into it, we contract and we expand. Yes. We're these amazing, physical beings. Honor your humanness. Honor the information, the bodily sensations that begin first, that are supposed to begin first, and sends information up here. And then I remember when my daughter was in her fatal car accident, and I found that 2,000 people were going to be. We had to move it to this huge gymnasium with a stage because 2,000 people came, and I needed to be up there. I needed to be the first person to speak. I needed them to see that I'm okay. I'm okay because Sophia's okay. And if I'm okay, in the little primitive words that I could use, then they could be okay. And they reached out. 1,000 people reached out. And I helped them with my little fumbling words. But that's why I call it word vomit. I know some of my students don't like that. But it just came up and out and helped them. It put a wedge between what was happening and their reaction to what was happening. It put a wedge between what was happening and their bodily response to what was happening, because they knew where to look, and it's self in their experience.
Can I give an example of that?
Yeah.
So, for instance, being transparent again, what was it, a week ago, someone messaged me and Jules said, "Oh, who's that?" It was like a female. And she said it fairly neutrally, and I had this immediate response, "What's the matter? Don't you trust me?" Because what had happened is, in my previous marriage, the person was insanely jealous, and I just kept getting so much insecurity. And even though I didn't do anything wrong, and I went out of my way to avoid, if there's anyone, even female, I looked the other way, I went out of my way to try and create a physical circumstance of safety. But like Jill said, safety isn't in the physicality. It's within. When your body feels safe, you feel safe. It doesn't matter about your physical circumstances. So I got this neural groove that if a female questioned my honesty, I got so pissed off because I didn't do anything wrong, and I hadn't done anything wrong, And now they're having a go at me. So I immediately reacted to Jules, and I found myself saying, why don't you trust me? You know, blah, blah, blah. And now, as it was happening, my cognition got involved, and it's like, what the hell are you doing? Calm down. But I couldn't, because my body was having a reaction. Yeah. And I eventually started to breathe, and I saw, oh, okay, I'm having a reaction before thought, and thought is informing me what's going on. My thought didn't create this. My thought was commentating what was going on within me, and I apologized. But we all have it. We all have these. You're not broken.
No.
You are human. This is the human experience.
And it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary to survive. It's necessary to be mother bears. It's necessary for our nervous system to want to protect us. It's for survival. And in what I work with people, you know, can you imagine if somebody is like my son Seth, who for 4 years wasn't, first of all, you know, he was taken from his mother, and then his big sister was in a fatal car accident. His big sister, who helped raise him all of his life, that's all he's ever known. And then he's sent to a very volatile situation and then abandoned. And so what his body, his neuroreceptors are up, tuned in to threat.
And he's going to behave and react from that.
You have to behave and react from that until you understand, until we could give him and work with him. And it was such an honor. It was so surreal, because a lot of information was being sent up to my brain from my body. A lot of feeling sensations were feeling. It was very, it was bringing up my trauma front and center. You know, how could somebody do this?
I just want to add, but we'll go to the breaking question soon. So when you had your experience, you were in a state of bliss.
Yeah.
For how long?
About 2 years.
2 years. And in that state of bliss, Jules experienced things like astral projection and lots of, you know, what you could call psychic things. But really it was the veil between the form and the formless kind of dissolved to a degree. And there was just this energetic interaction. And I've had oneness experiences and seen energy and all the rest of it. Now, the reason we're saying that is you are God, the universe, universal mind, and no time, no space, no matterless energy put into time, space, and matter. And the holder of this spiritual energy is your physical body. Okay. Your physical body is hormonal. It has a brain. And we have these reactions. I don't care how enlightened you think you are, you're still determined by the vehicle of your body. And your body will
absolutely
have reactions before thought, and then cognition tells you about it slightly later. It's not thought-based. It is wholeception. Wholeception. All of us are perceiving, not just the freaking brain. It's not just freaking thought. It's bigger, it's deeper, it's more entangled, expansive. It's more God than just thought.
Right.
Sorry, I'm getting passionate now.
And we wrote.
And I used to teach this, so I'm sorry.
I know. Rudy's such a beautiful human too.
And there's thousands of research journals backing up what we're saying. Anyway,
we bring in the energy in our facilitator training, and we're doing a trauma course, and it's trauma through the eyes of Wholality, and we are energetic. We are biochemical, electromagnetic plasma, and we look at everything, and so we understand and the thought, we wrote in our book, the thought is it's just a manifestation of our inner energetic dwelling. The story that we have in our brain is just a manifestation of our inner physiological state. There's so many layers, and that's why Rudy says wholeception. There's so many layers that we move through. The body is the bridge between the form and the formless. We would not be able to have this human experience without our physical body. It allows us an interference pattern to give us contrast, to offer dynamics of dualities, to offer the experience of polarities. It's this non-dualistic, sublime love having experience. If we try to seek this higher vibrational life or higher vibrational thoughts, we're going to feel that in our body because we're alienating our body. It will never stop giving us messages. I lived like that for so long.
We're in the break, we're actually going to play one. It's Julian's video, and we're just going to give you a very short version of his testimonial to Wholality. But he was saying that, if I can paraphrase, I don't even know if Julian's on or not. He was saying that there was things he needed to change in his life. So his body was giving him this feeling of unease, this feeling of being in genuineness. And he was like, no, I need to just raise my vibration. No, I need to be positive. And he was bypassing the body's information, sending him signals. When he came, because that's not my true nature. So when he came across Wholality, he sat with it and listened. And we've got Michelle talking about that. We're going to show in the break as well. She listened, and they listened to their bodies. What are you trying to tell me? And Julian's life had to completely be rearranged, which he's still going through a gritty stage with that implication. But things had to change for him to be truly authentic. Love isn't puppy dogs and roses. It can be very gritty. But there's this authenticity when you listen to yourself. So I just want to stop there and highlight, in case you haven't heard me. Number one, what we're saying is thought isn't, experience isn't 100% thought-based. But it is 100% wholeception based, meaning something's happening in the world, you create your whole perception about it, then you have a reaction or an experience of it. Okay. Number two, we're not saying we're regressing people back to the past, but looking up and digging up our trauma. We're not saying that. We're saying that there's a communion people do within themselves, and they listen to the information of the body rather than completely bypassing, ignoring it.
You don't even need a story. It's you don't even need the event. The trauma is not the event. Trauma is our physiological response to the event.
Beautiful.
We carry that with us. That is our forever present ground zero. We carry that. And until we look at it, it's going to be there with us. And that is what I want to do. Again, I mean, I was in the hospital and ER and labor and delivery and pediatrics, and I have these amazing doctor friends. I know two of them are on. And I said, you're wrong. You were taught wrong. You're upside down. And they listened to me. It wasn't that my words meant something to them. They said the proof is in the pudding. They saw the experiences, the life experiences that my physical body went through. They saw my cardiologist report. They looked at my CT scans. They looked at all that, and then they looked at it afterwards. They want to know, when is the trauma book going to be out? And it's going to be out soon. I want to help people. I want to help soften their experience. I want to develop a nonprofit organization, and I already have a couple of you that are going to man and woman places around the world, because that is how we can help people, the people that are hurting the most. I don't know, they don't have the finances for this. I want to be able to help them.
To hold them.
To hold them.
Tell them that you're innocently having a reaction from these innocently built along the way neuro grooves. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. This is the human experience, and help them understand the nature of that without the self-judgment.
There's no intentionality. We would not survive if there was an intention to behave or an intention to react the way that we're reacting. We would not survive as a human species. We'd get eaten. We wouldn't be here right now. So, yeah, I
Is it okay to go to a break?
Yeah.
So what I want to do, we've spoken a little bit longer than I thought we would. What we're going to do now is we're going to have a break, about seven minutes, and you're welcome to go and grab a cup of tea or something, and then during the break we're going to play some videos of other people talking about what we're talking about from their experience, what happened with them. Okay, so you're welcome to watch those or not. They're actually taken from our facilitator students, but we're not actually trying to sell the facilitator training. We want to give you other people's words and views and experience for you to watch, so it's not just us. In the break, we want you to type any questions specifically about this, not about anything else, but specifically about what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes.
And then we'll choose a few questions and try to come up with an umbrella answer to answer a few of them.
Yeah.
Because last time we ran out of time.
Yeah, last time we ran out of time. So put the questions in, and then we're going to come back, and then we're going to talk around those questions. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. We love you so much. And yes, we'll see you in about 7 minutes. I'll start playing the video now.
I had a very, very anxious time. Terrible, terrible anxiety. I became very judgmental. I had a fear when I wasn't doing well, because then where's my wisdom? Where's God? And now there's no thinking around that. It doesn't even question it. The fact is that you're whole and you know it. I feel free. I feel like I can just, dance my way wherever it goes. I'm not trying to fight my way through my mind. For me, it's quieter. It's just simpler. Going within and listening and welcoming and is so healing. It's like a blanket almost to the soul. It's like giving yourself a hug for the first time when all your life you've been shooting arrows at yourself. That understanding really changed me. The wholeness is actually God, because when you allow the wholeness, when you allow possibility in everything, you're actually allowing, I feel that I'm allowing God much more in my life. I'm allowing myself to be led more rather than my head leading me. But I feel that because I'm not thinking about it, because I'm just living in that space. I'm just whole in myself, and I'm just dealing with myself in a more wholesome way.
What happened for me is that I missed stuff. I was ignoring things that I needed to change to have a better life. That feels bad. Oh, well, I'll go and be positive. Basically, unintentionally bypassing important messages that were being given to me through my feelings, through my experience. And it was okay to feel bad. I turned towards it, and now I'm changing my life. And I know for a fact it's changed me massively. And so I suppose the ultimate gift of Wholality, you genuinely lose your fear of your experience. And what happens is you lose your judgment of the challenging stuff, right? You lose your judgment, the difficult experiences, and realize that's all part of living. We're not here to float on a cloud. We get to experience everything. We get to experience love, joy, and we get to experience pain and struggle, but you wouldn't know happiness without sadness. The unconditional acceptance of every aspect of your experience will change your life completely. It's a beautiful unconditional freedom You'll never find anything more helpful. You'll never find anything that brings more peace. As we're talking about an unconditional acceptance and understanding of who you are. I've been wholatized, I see it, right? And to you and Jules for helping me have that, I can never express adequate gratitude, really. You want a whole, complete understanding that will really, really bring you to a sense of peace, then, and really help you to help others, then Wholality is the doorway to an authentic life, unburdened and free of all judgments. A true, beautiful, unconditional freedom. That's what freedom is.
When we talk about resilience, your ability to cope with challenges and things in life happening, where were you on a scale of 1 to 10 before the Wholality training?
I was low. I was maybe 2.
And what about now that you've kind of ended the training?
9 to 10. Depends on the days.
As far as like your peace of mind, where would you say that was before Wholality from 1 to 10?
minus 5, maybe.
And where would you say is now?
Range from 6 to 10.
How connected that you're part of a bigger energy? Where would you say that was before Wholality?
Not at all. 0. I was, I had concepts, I had idea, but staying on a cognitive level, you know.
And what about now that you finished the Wholality training?
Now it's a big 8. It's important to feel like you are part of everything. It's important to be in peace. It's important to be free. It's important to be open to whatever is going on. And that's what brought to me.
What impact has it had on me? It gave me back to myself. To the point that I'm okay right here in this moment. Because you know why? This is me. And I'm the only one that can be me. You cannot describe how this undoes your erroneous perceptions, your erroneous beliefs, stuff you didn't even know you were carrying inside of you, stuff you didn't even know you were a slave to. I can't even take in the depth and height and scope. Peace beyond understanding. Living in my presence of the omnipresence of God. But I'm part of this beautiful omnipresence. It made sense to see everything in wholeness instead of in pieces. This has impacted my entire life, and it's going to continue to impact my entire life because now I know who I am.
The main thing I got out of this training was a level of self-love that I hadn't felt before, of self-acceptance, the permission to love me just the way I am. It took away the guilt, the shame. It just opened up a place inside of me that was unique and one with the divine, a part of the divine. And I just want to thank that intuition, that part of me that is still knowing I don't have the whole answer. And Wholality gave me the whole answer. And I want to thank Rudy and Jules, who are master teachers, for guiding us back to ourselves. It feels like a divine embrace.
There you go. So that's some other people's view, and I just want to thank you. I think if we've got Azra and Julian. I haven't, not looking at the whole screen, but I just want to say bless you. Thank you so much for talking about your experience. so other guys could hear you. So bless you. Thank you guys, our beautiful 2022 facilitator students.